Michael Mann is making a sequel to his 1995 classic cops and robbers film Heat, starring Al Pacino, Robert De Niro and Val Kilmer. This new sequel is set to start shooting in 2026 and was initially in book form, the novel being one I've reviewed on the channel if you're interested. Heat 2 will follow on from the events of the first film, as Detective Vincent Hanna tries and fails to track down Chris, and Chris subsequently gets a completely new storyline involving cybercrime set in exotic locations in Asia and South America. The film will also be a prequel to Heat, following Neil McCauley and his crew of robbers on a heist, filling in the backstories of these characters, including just why Neil is so detached from people around him. Separately, the film will follow a younger Vincent Hanna on the trail of a gang of home invaders. My thoughts on the book and the difficulties of getting this made into a successful film are things I've spoken about in previous videos. But one huge rumour that was circling the project was that Leonardo DiCaprio was attached to star, presumably in the role of Chris. It was pretty shocking news, as you might expect this role to be filled by a decent character actor or Val Kilmer lookalike, not arguably the biggest actor in Hollywood, and one who famously doesn't do sequels, who's now not only doing a sequel, but accepting what will surely be a supporting role in a larger ensemble cast. But that rumour has now been confirmed, because DiCaprio himself has spoken about the project publicly for the first time. In a recent interview with Deadline, he was asked, "You've been working with Michael Mann on Heat 2, either as Chris Shihellis, the role played by the late Val Kilmer, or Vincent Hanna, the detective played by Al Pacino. What can you share? And as a guy who doesn't usually do sequels, what are the challenges in continuing the storyline from the revered original?" And DiCaprio responded, "This is very much its own movie. We're still working on it. We're a ways away from production. It tips its hat to Heat, but it's a homage, and it picks up the story from there. The book is already out there, so there are no big secrets that I'm divulging. It's set in the future and the past, and from that pivotal moment in what I think is the great crime noir film of my lifetime. It's one of those films that just keeps resonating, that we keep talking about, that has been imitated so many times and influenced so many different movies. So we're working on it, but it's certainly exciting, and I think I look at it as its own silo in a sense. We can't duplicate what Heat was, so it's paying homage to that film, but giving it its own unique entity." He was asked whether he was playing Chris or Hannah, and he coyly responded that it's something they're still discussing. So either it's not yet clear, and there could be some role switching between the cast, or he just doesn't want to say who he's playing at this moment in time. But from the interviewer's framing, it does seem like it'll either be Chris or Hannah, not Neil McCauley or the new home invader character Otis, as has been speculated. If you want my guess, I think it'll be Chris, if it is indeed a toss-up between Hannah and Chris. I mean, it would be cool if he was playing Hannah and Christian Bale, another rumoured cast member of the film, was playing the criminal Otis, as that would pit these two Hollywood titans against each other, whereas if DiCaprio plays Chris, he and Bale, if Bale is actually going to be in the film, will probably be on screen in just one scene. But anyways, I just can't picture DiCaprio as a Pacino substitute, whereas Leo as Val Kilmer does make sense. There is a resemblance. And not to mention, in the story, Chris kind of goes and does his own thing, having his own separate storyline before things come full circle. So if you are putting Leonardo DiCaprio in your film, that's the role to put him in to get maximum screen time. Plus, surely the role of Hannah should go to Oscar Isaac. He looks so much like a young Al Pacino and definitely has the chops to pull it off. Adam Driver's name has been thrown around as a young Neil, but I don't know, I don't really see it. Anyway, DiCaprio went on to say, "What I love about Michael Mann as an artist and as a person, and I've heard this from other actors along the way, is that he is extraordinary to work with because there's nothing that he hasn't thought of. He's thought of every single nuance and detail of the character, of the world, and he's going to have an answer for any questions you might ask. When we did the James Dean screen test, I remember it at Warner Brothers. They put a top hat on me. I did my best. I think we had 2 days to shoot a screen test. I was probably just a little too young at the time. Then we moved on to developing The Aviator together. That was the Howard Hughes book I remember carrying around in my backpack for almost 10 years while I was vicariously reading about who that man was. I had a huge passion to play him. Michael developed that entire screenplay with John Logan, and it was just masterful. He had just done Ali, and after doing one major biopic, he didn't want to do another. He said, "It's yours, kid." I said, "Okay, thank you." Michael really was the architect of all of that. And so yeah, I've always wanted to work with Michael. He's got an incredibly brilliant mind, and there's no stone that he leaves unturned. It's a much longer interview, and this was a little extract where clearly DiCaprio showed that he and Michael Mann had planned to work together before. I believe also that he was going to star in Public Enemies before dropping out for another film. So Mann and DiCaprio have been circling each other for many years, and now it seems they are finally going to work with each other. DiCaprio also spoke about What Happens at Night, which is said to be Martin Scorsese's next movie, which will also star Jennifer Lawrence, about a married American couple visiting a snowy European town to adopt a child who come across odd, mysterious characters. I follow Scorsese a lot on the channel but didn't make a video on this project, as his next project seems to change every month. But the fact that it's brought up in this interview suggests this project has legs. Jennifer Lawrence has also spoken about it around a month ago. The interviewer compared it to The Shining and Shutter Island, and DiCaprio responded, "It's a work in progress. But what I do know is that Marty has this incredible yearning and connection to this material. I don't know if I could compare it to The Shining or Shutter Island. I think he's heavily influenced by films like Vertigo, in that the film he wants to make is about human relationships, about the acceptance of grief, the ability to let go. It's a love story, but it's simultaneously about accepting the reality that you're given in this life. It's going to be an interesting journey. We're still putting all the pieces together. But Marty has a very firm idea of what he wants to do. And there's going to be a lot of exploration when we make this movie, because it can go in a lot of different directions. But at its core, this is the relationship between a man and a dying woman. They're put into a set of circumstances where we don't know what's reality and what's not. DiCaprio also confirmed he's not a part of the David Fincher Brad Pitt spin-off of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Cliff Booth movie that's coming out on Netflix, explaining that there were talks early on, but ultimately he's not going to be in it. According to a separate report a month ago, DiCaprio was apparently offered $3 million by Netflix for a one-day shoot for a cameo in the movie, which it seems, if true, he's turned down. Going back to Heat 2, it's an exciting project. There are some big names attached, but I do have a lot of trepidation, as I often do with these kind of things. The book is good, better than most would have expected going in, but I feel a lot of people are parroting other people's opinion that the novel is amazing without actually reading it themselves. It's not great. There's some alarming coincidences that are required for principal characters to all end up in the same location at the same time, multiple times throughout. It does things to Neil's backstory which I didn't like. And when you look at Chris in the original movie, an efficient gunman with a gambling problem, I can't quite picture him, that character, becoming the international man of mystery he becomes in the sequel storyline. Plus, the Chris stuff is kind of boring. The prequel stuff is very exciting. It feels like the kind of movies Mann used to make in the 80s. Manhunter, Thief. But the Chris stuff feels more like these dire movies that Mann has been making recently, like Black Hat. But the biggest question mark regarding the sequel for me is the actors and how they make them fit. The new actors cosplaying as the older ones, getting the right guys for the right roles, the ages of the actors, makeup, de-aging, all of that kind of stuff. Just the immersion and suspension of disbelief in general. Not to mention, as I discussed in my previous video on Heat 2, how the pathos and aura of certain scenes where, for example, characters see each other for the first time after a long time will be hard to capture, given they're now played by new actors. But anyway, what do you make of this project? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.